So in this series of lectures, we're going to start to look at the new lab build for the Linux machines, and in particular focus on how we can use that for teaching Python. So what I've got here is a series of lectures. As you can see, this one's called Modern Python Tooling. And what I'm going to do as part of this is introduce all the key concepts that we're going to be looking at, and in particular, the individual tools that have either been installed or have been developed to make working in Python easier. And the whole point is we want to try and get Python working from first year undergraduates all the way through to masters and PhD students in the same way, so that we've got a consistent working environment that should work across everything. So in particular, what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce the new lab setup. We're then going to focus on the Linux environment in general and some of the tools that have been put in place to make things a bit more productive and easy to use. Then we're going to focus more in on the development in Python and look at the current best practices for Python, and in particular sort of software development in general. And then there's some other tools that I've sort of developed to give better quality of life for more inexperienced users, but also as an experienced developer, eventually you'll be going, actually, I'll just use that tool because it does make life easier. Now, the context to this is that Python development has been making lots and lots of leaps and bounds over the sort of years, and things are getting more and more sort of complex. And in particular, modern Python development emphasizes this ability to have isolated installs of Python using different versions of Python and different packages, which then makes it very reproducible. In theory, you should be able to take a Python project that's developed in one place and take it to another machine, another operating system, and you should be able to reproduce that and get it working. And to do that, we have a series of tools and automation processes that allow us to do that. And in particular, then allow us to move things onto the cloud into CI/CD, so continuous integration, continuous development pipelines, and allows us to use techniques such as test-driven development as we go through and work. So this works very well in big teams. It also can work well for sort of individual developers. We have to work in a specific way. And if we start teaching our students how to do this at an early stage, and people who've never used Python before, it should hopefully make it easier for them to get started. There's a couple of very easy tools to install. After that, a lot of the work will be done by those tools for us. And obviously, these things are not always compatible. And having deep knowledge of software engineering and then having people that are just coming to use a language, they can be inundated. And that's where we've written a series of tools to make life easier. For example, tidying up workspaces, creating template projects and things like that. Under the hood, all the tooling that we're using is a tool called UV, but what we've done is put a nice front end to it to make life easier. So the outline of what these lectures are going to cover, and there will be sort of videos on each individual section showing the practical usage of this, as well as some of the sort of background and theory which are in the slides here, and I will combine everything together into one easy package. I intend to do a lot of this in the labs with the master's students. At undergraduate level, I think we'll just be doing sort of smaller elements of it. We won't need to cover all of this. So in particular, the outline is we're going to look at tools. So the first is direnv. Then we're going to look at zshell, which is our new default shell. We'll look at UV. We're going to look at the Z editor, which again is just the editor I use now, and I find it very productive. So I would encourage people to use that. Then how we can put this all together to create projects. And then we're going to look at tools such as the venv cleaner that I've created. There's another one that I've only recently completed, so it's not on the slides, called PyProject, which is creating template projects. We'll look at using Jupyter, which again, we're not going to be using Anaconda. We're going to be using the same workflow if we're working in Jupyter notebooks or Marimo notebooks or anything else. And then finally, we'll look at how UV handles workspaces. So again, that we can make working on large projects, or in particular when we give code to students in big repos, we can use workspaces to make these things more efficient. So as we go through this, I will basically take each session as a sort of short video and some slides. I will do practical work, remote into the Linux machine, ready to go. And then all of these will be available on my website or on YouTube, ready to look at. So in the next session, what we're going to do is just look at what happens when we log into the new build of the Linux box, and I'll talk about some of the elements that are coming up and some of the new tools that you will see on initial login.